Hi, today we're going to take a look at the art mode that Olympus is famous for. It's very popular in the pen series of cameras, but the EM10 also comes with a range of art filters as well, and they're all built in so you can shoot them straight out of the camera. There are two ways to access the art filters. The easiest way is to turn it to the art mode on the dial. This will give you more automation and let you access more menus and sub-menus that come with the art filters. Alternatively, you can use the other modes like aperture priority, manual mode, etc., and access the art filters via the picture mode. That way will actually give you more manual control of the exposure and the shutter speed and the aperture. Okay, let's take a look at the art mode. First you've got to turn it on the art mode setting here. And then what comes up on the screen is a menu system. On the left hand side you can see the art mode 1, 2, 3, 4, and at the top there you can see what they are. And on the right hand side you'll see an example. This one here is pop art, so all you got to do is select it, so move to it, press the enter key or the shutter button, and then you'll go into the art mode. And then you can see that it's changed, and then you can take a photo as in that mode. So to get back into the art mode setting, just press the OK key again, and it takes you back into it. There are extra filters within the filter. So if you right click, you'll see there's a filter type 1, which is the original filter, and then there's also an extra filter which is just a modified version of the first filter that also has different effects. There's also another option called overlay effects, and that's the second one on down here, and in there this one's currently off. What that does is it gives you extra features overlaying the filters like soft focus, pinhole effect, white edge effect, there's like vignetting, frame, put a frame. And so for example, if I select the frame again, go into pop art, and then you'll see it puts a frame around it, and then when you take the photo it'll have a nice little frame around the photo. So you can apply overlay effects on all the filters. So in art filter there's a few things that you can play around with. There's a thing called partial color, which is pretty cool. As you can see by the picture, you can choose what color to accentuate in the photo. So when you go into it, so you select it, partial color, a little wheel comes up, and what you can do is you can move this wheel with the front dial or the back dial, and so out of that scene it'll pick the color. So if I move over to the red, it's only going to make the red of that parrot, and everything else will be black and white. If I keep on moving it, only the blue will show and everything else will be like a black and white. So it's pretty cool. I think you see it like in Schindler's List, where that girl with the red dress and everything else was black and white. You get that kind of effect. So for instance, I just want to see the blue there. Okay, and then take a photo. Now there's another thing called art bracketing, and what art bracketing does is it takes a series of photos and it applies all the filters to it. So what you got to do is you got to set it up first. So when you're in the art bracketing mode, you click right, and then it'll come up with a little menu, and in here you can choose which ones that you like. Alright, they're all set. So go back and click into it, and then what that'll do now, if I take a photo, it will try and it'll apply all the settings that I've got currently set, and it'll even remember the overlay settings that I had on some of them. So it's going through all of them. Rather than take the photo 100 times, just choose art bracketing and press and take a photo once, and it'll apply all the filters to the JPEG. If you have a look now, see if you go through it took a heap of photos, all with the filters that I had. That's art bracketing. You can also get to the art bracketing via the option shooting menu 2, and in here bracketing, and then you'll see the art bracketing is on, everything else is off, because remember I'm in art mode. So, and then over here same thing, you can get to all the settings just like you did on the other menu. When you're in art mode, the camera takes care of the exposure as if it was in program mode. And just like in program mode, you still have some control of the exposure by using the program shift feature. Now what the program shift feature lets you do is it lets you pick different combinations of the shutter and the aperture. So at the moment we're not in program shift mode. So the camera has looked at the scene and it said, oh well, I'm going to have a 1/40th of a second shutter speed and the aperture at 3.5. But if you want to change those settings, what you do, you go into program shift mode. So what you do is you turn the back dial clockwise and a little S comes up. And then what that's doing now, as you saw, the shutter speed dropped to 1/25th of a second and the aperture still remained at 3.5. If I turn it again clockwise, now it's changed it again, and then again it'll change the shutter to 15 and the aperture went to 4.5. So what it's doing, each turn of the dial will give you a correct exposure but with an alternative shutter aperture combination. So when program shift isn't on, the aperture is wide open at 3.5, and for this setting it says I need 1/30th of a speed. So if I turn into program shift, it's trying to raise the aperture, but then in turn it's going to reduce shutter speed, so to let more light in. You can also change other settings like ISO from the SCP menu or from the main menu itself. Now to bring up the SCP menu, first you have to select it via the menu, so I'll show you how to do that. So you go into the custom menu, then you go into control settings, and then find the art filter, and then in here you've got the art menu, which we already had, and then you can also pick live control or the live super control panel. So I'm just going to pick the live super control panel. So when you get back out of it now, once you're in the art menu, you can click the info button and it also takes you to the SCP mode. From here you can actually change your ISO, your white balance, pretty much everything that's on here you can change. Even if you are in the art filter mode, you can you still have full control of pretty much everything. If you want to use aperture or shutter or manual mode, you can still apply art filters. What you do there is you can use the picture mode. So I'll show you. If I move into, say for instance, let's go to manual mode. Okay, so when I'm in manual mode, if I want to go into the super control panel, at the top there you can see normally it's on natural or vivid or whatever. If you keep on going, you can actually get to the art filters this way. So art 1, art 2, soft focus, pale and light. So you can get to it from there. The only thing, when you're in manual mode or aperture priority mode, you can't get to the overlay effects through the super control panel. So what you've got to do, you've got to get to it via the menu. So how to do that is you go to the shooting menu 1 and then you go to the picture mode, and you'll actually see there I'm in art mode 1, and if you right click then you've got all your art modes here, and if you right click again it takes you to the second page of that particular filter type, and then from there you can choose what you want. So for instance, if I want to get rid of that border and put in white edge effect, get out of that, and that'll apply to it. See, I'm still in manual mode. So what you're doing is you're tweaking the filter to how you like it. And then when you are in manual mode or aperture priority mode, you can select it and it will remember the last setting of that filter. Even if you turn the camera off, it remembers the last selection of that filter. So the advantages of being in manual or aperture priority mode is you can actually have full control of the shutter. You can have full control of the exposure. You don't have to use program shift. So for instance, I'm in Art Filter 3. I can, once again, I can still pick what I want, ISO or whatever, and then I can change the aperture independently. I can, and also change the shutter speed independently. So basically all it's doing is just applying the art filter on top of what you normally would be shooting. One last way of applying art filters is you can actually apply them on the Olympus workspace on the computer. Okay, so if you want to apply art filters on the computer after you've taken a normal shot, you can do it in Olympus workspace. So Olympus workspace is a free tool you can download. They're up to version 1.2. So when you've imported it into workspace, there's a little art filter button over the side here, and here you can choose what you want. So exactly what you've got on the camera is actually here as well. I think there's a few extra ones as well. Here's a diorama 2, diorama 1. So and then also you've got effects here as well, and that's to apply the overlay, same as the camera, what's in the camera. So you can put a frame there, apply that, and you get the frame. So that's how you can do it post-processing. So if you've taken a shot and you think, oh, that would really be good for a diorama or so, or something like that, then you can do it. So you don't have to worry of missing the shot. You can always do it in post-processing. So that's how you do it on the computer. So that's how you apply the art filters both in camera and on the computer. So here's a few examples of some shots that I took. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next one.